and welcome to another episode of Literature Podcast. I'm Joanna.
And I'm Mish, and as some of you may or may not know, next week is Library Week. So today, to celebrate the joys that are libraries, we've invited a special guest onto the show. Today's special guest actually works at a library, so we figured who better to help us celebrate Library Week than the lovely Bookstagram book ferret Meredith herself. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good today.
Are you guys having spring out there yet?
If by spring you mean a very wet and rainy day, then yes.
Oh, good. We still have snow, so where I am anyway, so it's not spring at all. All right, so we'll just get right into today's chat, and we want to know, what made you fall in love with reading?
I can't say that I can pinpoint it exactly, but I do remember reading a lot before it was cool. Like, I got made fun of a lot for reading. It took me probably a year to read Harry Potter because the kids in my class started reading it and it was cool. And so I was like, well, they all made fun of me for reading, so I'm not going to touch that book. But of course, as soon as I read it, I fell in love with it. And I feel like that was like the point of my solid love of reading really started with Harry Potter.
That's fair. Do you have a favorite book from your childhood, or would it be Harry Potter?
No, my favorite book from my childhood is Ella Enchanted. And I think it was in 5th grade. Our librarian at the time, she read us the first chapter in like our library class, and I dove over a row of kids to be the first person to check that book out. And I still love it. Gail Carson Levine was even the first author like signing that I went to. So that book has a very special place in my heart.
So what would you say is your favorite genre?
I feel like I have two because I really love both fantasy and contemporary. Those are really my two like solid favorites.
Those are my favorites as well. What would you say? I know it's hard to pick a favorite book, but like, what would you say out of the two, like contemporary and fantasy? What are your favorite books of each genre?
I get asked this question a lot, so I do have fairly solid answers. For contemporary, it's Anna and the French Kiss. I love that book. I've loved it since the first time I read it. I try and reread it every year. We actually just took a trip to Paris, and we basically based the whole thing off of Anna and the French Kiss. So
that's so fun.
Really perfect. Yeah. And then for fantasy, it's definitely the Throne of Glass series.
Yes.
Yep. I was reading them online before they were even published. So I was always telling people, well, like, my favorite book isn't quite published yet, but keep an eye out for it because it will be. And now look at it.
And you've met Sarah J. Maas, right?
Yeah,
twice.
Several times. Yeah.
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 Oh, so jealous.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person. I love her so much. I have, like, all of her books are behind me right now.
I love Sarah J. Maas so much. I, like, fangirled over Throne of Glass so much when I finally read it. I didn't read it until Queen of Shadows came out, so I was pretty late to the game.
That's fine.
And speaking of which, what is the last book you read that you really fangirled about?
To stay in here, Kingdom of Ash. I reread the whole series from start to finish. I think I started in September, and I kind of moved slowly through them because I knew it was the end of the series that I'd loved even before it was published. And I am still in a funk over Kingdom of Ash. Like, I still don't think I've found my groove yet, again, with reading since finishing Kingdom of Ash. But
it definitely took a while after. I was in a huge reading slump for like a month.
Right? Because it was the ultimate end to this series. It's been a part of my life for so long.
I feel like that book broke me a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want to pick up anything else. I just want to know more and save a lot of people. But not going to spoil.
I do think we get a little bit more with the World of Throne of Glass book that's coming out. It won't necessarily be like story, but we'll get to learn a little more about the world itself. So hopefully that will help.
So, what is a book that has had a real big impact on your life and the way you perceive it?
So I picked up The Little Book of Huga. I saw it. It came in at the library, actually, and I was like, this looks interesting. And I feel like it gave me a word for a feeling that I've been chasing my whole life. So Huga's that sense of kind of like comfort and coziness. It's a Danish word, and I strive for it everywhere in how I decorate my home, how I spend my time with friends. And it's definitely changed my life because now I have a word to put on that feeling that I love to find.
Sounds very Molly Weasley-like
It
comfort.
does.
I do call my apartment the Book Ferret Burrow, so I feel that.
The Little Book of Huga?
Yes, The Little Book of Huga. It's by Mike Viking. I have no idea if I'm saying his name right, but I hope I am.
Okay, I'm just writing that down. All right. Okay, so you work in a library.
I do.
And aside from being in a building full of books, what is the best part about working in a library?
It's connecting with people about books. Talking to patrons about a book like I've read that they're checking out that I'm really excited for them to dive into, or even just seeing like they have a book on hold, they've been waiting forever, and they like run up to the counter because they're so excited to check it out. Just yesterday, this young boy and his mom came up to check out, and she was like, the librarians upstairs looked, but they couldn't find it, but we want like the latest book in the Dog Man series. And I had just checked it in, so I was like, I have that for you. So I like ran into the back and pulled it out, and he literally was just jumping up and down. He was so excited for that book. And those moments really are the best.
So I know it sounds like a dream job to me, but what's the worst part about working in a library?
The books are really gross. Like at the end of a shift, like my hands are just gross. We have hand sanitizer everywhere. It doesn't always help. People are kind of gross with their books. Like they've come back stained or sticky. I once opened up a book with a used Q-tip inside as a bookmark.
Oh, innovative.
But horrifying.
You don't really think of how dirty books can get, right?
You really don't. So this is your librarian begging you, please, like, be kind to your library books. Treat them nicely. Use a proper bookmark.
Not a used not
wow. Or toilet paper? Not used toilet paper, but like people put toilet paper in there, and I'm like, well, now I know where you were reading that.
Oh my gosh. So, what are some of your favorite library events?
We have so many events at my library. I love our movie nights that we do. We have a lot of really great programs from like 0 to adult. I mean, we cover the board, but my favorite event, we do it every year on July 31st on Harry Potter's birthday. It's a Quidditch event. So we have crafts. We have Harry Potter crafts. We have a working sorting hat thanks to our digital services team. So you come up to it and it tells you your house. It shouts it out at you. And then the director of my library and I, we lead Quidditch games. So we split the kids up into teams. They use foam like pool noodles as their Quidditch brooms. And we have kind of a little game of Muggle Quidditch. One of our teen volunteers is our snitch, so they come on at the end of the game, and the first kid to tag them, their team wins. And it's so much fun. We're about ready to start planning it, and I can't wait.
July 31st.
July 31st.
My kids would love that.
You'll have to come.
Try to plan a trip out there one time.
So fun. We even had someone donate like full-on gold Quidditch hoops that we set out for it. It's fantastic.
My gosh, that sounds super exciting. And I'm actually like kind of close to Chicago. I'm only a couple hours away.
I know. It's for like grades like 3 to 12 or something. And I kind of wish they did an adult program too, because I know so many But I feel like they would play a little harder and it might get a little risky.
So how do you think that libraries have an impact on the community, and in what way?
They are community. The tagline for my library is where community happens. We have literacy classes, we have tech classes, we have all kinds of programs for anyone and everything. We even have an entire set of programs for aspiring writers, and it's a whole series of them. We host NaNoWriMo write-ins in November. It's really incredible what we do. We even host movies in our auditorium, which brings a lot of people together. We do a classic film series. We do first run features, which are always a big deal. We've even had to add extra showings because we have so much interest in those. We also do family sensory movie nights where we keep the lights up a little bit. There are things for kids to play with during the movie to keep them occupied, and I really love that we have that. But we're always seeking feedback from our patrons too, to see what we can bring to them to help serve our community more.
That's absolutely
Your library
amazing.
Sounds amazing. Like, my library does nothing like that at all.
I am really proud of my library. I love my library a lot.
All right. So if someone came up to you while you were working and asked you for a book recommendation, let's say in like YA, what's the first book you recommend?
Honestly, I always ask more questions before I throw out a recommendation. I want to help a patron find the right book for them. So I make sure to take into account maybe even their age, what books they've read before and enjoyed, if they're looking for something like a favorite book they've read or something completely different, what genre they might be interested in. But I do tend to suggest some of my favorites often. But especially with YA, which I know really well, I tend to kind of go for like the Lunar Chronicles are a standard.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is a great YA series. You're going to love it. I throw out Stephanie Perkins a lot because she's one of my favorites.
See, I told you have to read the Lunar Chronicles.
You do. It's fairy tales in space.
It's like fairy tales meet Star Wars. It's everything.
Exactly. And the characters are just so wonderful. They are also right behind me here.
I can get on it. I have an angry dog.
That's one good thing. Ferrets don't make much noise.
He makes that. Come here.
Until they
I
knock.
have a dog, but he basically, all he does is sleep.
Come here.
So.
Calm down.
Oh, dude.
His name's Padfoot. He is
Padfoot.
big baby.
That's fantastic.
All right. So in what ways can people help out their local libraries?
Going to the library, that alone is great. Check out the programs your library has. Go to those programs. There's usually statistics from programs, and that helps the library possibly get more funding for more programs in the future, depending on how many people come to them. Checking out material from the library matters. If you place things on hold, they order more books depending on the demand for those books. So that helps out authors too. A lot of libraries also have a bookshop attached to it. Because libraries are government funded, they can't actually sell things and take the money from it. So those bookshops are usually run by volunteers who then donate the money to the library. So if there's a bookshop, or even if they have a book sale, like a sidewalk sale, purchase from those sales really goes back and helps your library directly. So, yeah.
All right. So this is the question that we both kind of wanted to know. Have you ever shushed someone in a library? Are you that person? Like, shh.
It's not all the time because my library actually has 3 floors. And so we're on the bottom floor. It's mostly just the checkout desk, some rooms, the auditorium. So if kids are down there and they're a little louder, it's not as big of a deal. But every now and again, like, they get pretty loud. And so I don't know that I've ever actually used the sound, but I do like get that stern look on my face and I hold my lips and like you just glare at them. and it's kind of a power rush. Actually, like if my hair's up in the bun and I have my glasses on, like I feel
the full-on like librarian look. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, so you write. You're a writer as well. Does working at a library help at all with writing the books? Like, do you have good resources and stuff?
Yeah, it definitely helps with resources. I've seen and picked up quite a few writing books that other patrons have checked out where I'm like, oh, that looks like something I could definitely use. Like, I recently read last year The Anatomy of Story by John Truby, and that has really helped kind of change the game with my writing. So I would say it's definitely an advantage.
Speaking of your book, would you care to give us a small synopsis of what you're currently writing?
This makes me so nervous, but I'm going to do my best. I'm working on a YA fantasy, and it's based on a Grimm's fairy tale. It's kind of a lesser-known tale. It's called Thousand Fur, but it has some elements in it that are kind of similar to Cinderella. It's got, like, the 3 balls at the end that are a big part of it. And so I've taken inspiration from the groundwork of that fairy tale and just expanded it into this larger world. Essentially, my main character has been trapped in this cursed wood for 3 years, and she comes upon this witch who gives her an offer. If she completes 3 tasks for the witch, she'll help her find her brother who's been missing, too. So that's kind of where it starts.
That's exciting. I
That
love
sounds so
fairy
good.
tales and fantasy.
I love that you're working off of one of the Grimm's fairy tales. Like, the Grimm's brothers are just, like...
The darker, the better.
I think we just talked about that the other day. The Grimm's fairy tale.
On our classics episode.
They're just so much... There's so much more detail, even though they're shorter, and they're just so dark, and I really love that. I still remember the last line of the Snow White Grimm's fairy tale is about how they invite the stepmother to the wedding, and they make her dance in red-hot iron shoes until she fell down dead. The end.
Happy ending. So, why did you start your Bookstagram account, and do you have a favorite Bookstagrammer at the moment?
So I actually started my Bookstagram because I was querying a book at the time. I was looking into it, so I was looking for literary agents, and many of them said that they would love for their authors to have a social media account as kind of a springboard for a ready-made audience, essentially, for the book that they're trying to put out. And I had just found kind of the bookish corner of Tumblr. That was more or less where I started. And I also had this super cute ferret that I wanted to show off and take pictures of. So I combined the two, and now it's the book ferret. As for a favorite Bookstagrammer, it's really hard for me to choose. I have so many people that I really love, but some of my favorites are Lauren from Fiction Tea, Reagan from Reagan Reads, and Melody from Shea Melody. I think I said that right. She's going to be mad if I did.
I follow her too.
Yeah.
She's so lovely. I actually got to meet up with her in Paris. We went to visit, and she was there. And so we met up at the Louvre, and we walked around for the day. We went to Shakespeare and Company together. So I love the community that Bookstagram is, that it can really make you some lifelong friends.
I mean, that's how Mish and I met.
Through Bookstagram?
Yeah. Right? It's so wonderful how it brings people together.
It really is. So tell us about your ferrets. They're so cute.
All right, how much time do you have?
I'm not gonna lie. It's the reason why I instantly pushed the follow button when I came across your page one time. It was it was like the world's cutest picture. It was of Quigley, I believe, actually. And I was just like, oh my goodness, follow. You were like one of the first Bookstagram accounts I followed.
I did not know of your account, I'm sad to say, until Mish sent it to me, and I was like, how have I not seen this before? And I showed my husband all of your ferret photos, and I'm like, look at how cute they are. I can't handle it. Is that a ferret necklace that you're wearing? I can't.
It absolutely is. My husband gave it to me for my birthday a few years ago. I wear it every day. I love it so much because it looks just like Diggle. But I have two ferrets. For those who don't know, I have Wasabi and Diggle. Our first ferret, Quigley, he actually passed away last January. But he was the original book ferret. He's the reason I really started the account. Diggle will turn 5 in April, and Wasabi is going to turn 1 in May. We just got him last August as a itty bitty baby. But it was my husband actually who originally wanted ferrets. I was kind of on the fence. I wasn't really sure about them, but he asked our landlord at the time if it was okay if we got one. And that afternoon I was like, hey, I found one who's like up for adoption. We should go drive an hour and pick him up. And so we did. And that's when we brought Quigley home. But Diggle and Wasabi, they're the main features of the account. Honestly, like a lot of people, if I post a photo and the ferrets are not the focus, people don't care as much. They're definitely here for the ferrets. Like they enjoy the book part, but they're mostly here for the ferrets. And I mean, I can't blame them. They're so sweet. They're pretty great pets. They sleep a lot. They're sleeping right now. But when they're awake, they are very awake. They're very active. They're so fun to play with. Wasabi in particular is far too clever for his own good. He just learned how to climb a shelf today that he should definitely not have been able to reach. Our shoes are no longer safe. But they're so much fun. And luckily now that it's getting warmer, we can take Wasabi outside. He's kind of more adventurous than Diggle. So we even took him to a park yesterday.
I saw your story.
Harness. Yeah. He's got a little harness and leash, so we were walking around, and he was so excited to get back out again.
Yes, I admit that I'm sad when there's a picture without a ferret. But I also love your socks. Like,
thank you.
Oh my goodness. How many pairs of socks do you own?
Oh, too many. I have not counted in a while. I have a bin of socks under my bed with a lid on it because Wasabi is a sock thief. And those are the socks that I wear. I also have like 5 baskets of socks that I literally just use for my book photos. Like they don't get actually worn. They're used for photos. They're too nice and too cute to like mess up wear.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So some of our listeners might be excited to see some of your books and your ferrets. Where could they find you?
Well, I'm hoping to start querying with the book that I'm writing now this fall. So hopefully that comes through. But just following my account would be really great. I actually try and write every single day. I post that in my stories. So I'm trying to keep my Instagram followers updated on my writing journey, how that's going. So definitely as it progresses, I will update there. If you're looking for more ferret content, we do have a second account, which is Book Ferret Burrow, and that's more or less just photos of my apartment and the ferrets hanging out there. I post videos on there as well. I just posted a slow motion video of Wasabi playing with a ribbon, and it's hilarious. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We were so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
So that was all we had for today's episode. If you'd like to get more lit, be sure to subscribe to us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, or Castbox. All of our other social media will be linked in the description below.
And if you liked this episode, be sure to give it a like or rate our podcast. It really helps us to keep doing what we love. So until next time, bye.
Bye.